Welcome to Spotlight Sessions, where we shine a
What's
light
your
on
story?
incredible impact. What does accessibility mean to you?
What's your mission? Welcome all to accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions, where we shine a light on incredible individuals and organizations and the work that they do. I'm your host, Josh Basil. I'm a C45 quadriplegic, paralyzed below my shoulders, and a power wheelchair user. I'm the community relations manager at accessiBe and a passionate disability rights advocate and trial attorney, focused on breaking down barriers to access and inclusion for people with disabilities. Today on accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions, we are joined by Cory Lee, founder and travel writer of Curb Free with Cory Lee. Welcome, Cory.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
Oh, I'm excited to be have you on the program for people to learn your awesomeness and everywhere that you travel to. It's incredible what you do. Tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of also about spinal muscular atrophy.
Yeah, so at the age of 2, my mom started noticing that I would take a few steps and then kind of like fall flat on my face. And so I ended up going to the doctor and getting a muscle biopsy where they discovered that I have SMA, which is spinal muscular atrophy type 2. And SMA basically means that my muscles are weak and they do get weaker over time. So it is progressive and degenerative. So I don't necessarily have the same abilities today that I'll have in like 10 years from now. So that's kind of a constant reminder for me to really do like as much as I can now while I'm more able than I will be in the future.
You are surely living every day with purpose. Kind of what motivated you to create Curb Free with Cory Lee?
Yeah, so I started Curb Free with Cory Lee back in December of 2013. And around that same time, I was actually researching for an upcoming trip to Australia. I was going to Australia for my college graduation trip. And I got online and started trying to find, accessible hotels in Australia or accessible things to do, accessible transportation, all of those important things that go into planning an accessible trip. And when I did that and got on Google and trying to research everything, I pretty quickly noticed that there was a severe lack of representation in the accessible travel space. And so that idea and just, noticing that lack of representation really inspired me to start Curb Free with Cory Lee and hopefully show wheelchair users around the world what all they can do when they travel.
And all right, so tell everybody about your website, your social media platform, because you've got quite a few followers that love to see where you're going to go next. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, so my website is curbfreewithcorylee.com. And I have about 600 blog posts and travel guides on my website. So definitely check it out if you're planning a trip to a destination. Just search for that destination on there, and it should come right up with all of the accessible travel information. And I'm also on Instagram at curbfreecorylee, and on Facebook, my page is Curb Free with Cory Lee. So easy to find.
Your content is so fun to watch and to follow, and it's just if you had to guess, how many travel destinations have you gone to since graduating?
Yeah. I mean, I know that I've been to 43 countries in total since starting the blog. And so I'm up to 43 countries and all 7 continents, actually. I had a life goal to go to all 7 continents, and I completed that in February of 2020 and went to Antarctica for the first time. And it was one of the most incredible trips I've ever done and just an amazing experience. So it's been a whirlwind of a journey over the past 10 years.
Why is it so important that all abilities get to experience travel?
Yeah, I mean, I think that travel, it teaches empathy. And I think, empathy is needed in today's world. And just getting out there, being able to interact with people from other cultures and trying, their local foods and just meeting them, having those conversations is vastly important in today's world, especially. So I think, travel is important for anyone, and wheelchair users are included in that.
And have you had a memorable moment or story that's kind of had a lasting impact on you that kind of like really changed your life?
Yeah, I mean, so many, but I mean, one that immediately comes to mind is I was in India and met someone that, you know, I think I was like the first powered wheelchair user that most people in India that I encountered anyway had ever seen. And so they were completely fascinated by my wheelchair in places like Delhi and Jaipur. And they would run up to me and just start taking photos and like just staring at it and pointing at it. And for the first few days of that trip, I was like kind of getting annoyed because, after so many times of people pointing at you and taking pictures of your wheelchair, it's like, oh, okay, this is like kind of getting old. But then on about the
You're a
fourth
celebrity,
day,
Cory.
I didn't know what to think of it. But on the fourth day, someone came up to me and explained, that they had never seen a powered wheelchair before because that's something that they just don't have in India. And it's not even available to purchase, really. And so he told me that his brother was back at home and had to stay at home and could not even physically leave the house because he needed a power chair and they could not afford it. They couldn't get it. There's no like insurance that helps you get wheelchairs in India, and it's not even available. And so just that experience really showed me like, I guess, how fortunate I am
Yeah.
to have the resources that I do and to be able to travel like I do and have a powered wheelchair, because in some parts of the world, it isn't even possible to, have the independence that you and I have to be able to get around. And so whenever I'm having like kind of a bad day and I'm thinking, oh, like, I don't know, just letting something get me down, I just try to remember that scenario and just how lucky I really am to be able to, do what I
And,
do.
and that's such a beautiful perspective because it's a humbling experience to learn kind of like how fortunate we are to have what we have. Yes, it
Yeah.
sucks that we might not have what we used to have functionality wise or memory wise or youth, you name it. But if you focus on what you can control rather than dwell on what you cannot, it allows you to keep moving forward. And then for others around the world, it shows you how much more we need to help and bring awareness to the world that that people with disabilities can't be forgotten in their homes. And if you don't see them, they don't exist. No, they do exist, and it happens in the States as well. People
Oh,
with
yeah.
disabilities stay in their homes and they don't travel. People don't get to see, like you going around the world. You're doing so much education wise for the world, awareness wise, and it's amazing, Cory.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, whenever people here in the States come up to me and they're like, oh, I feel so sorry for you. I'm like, don't feel sorry for me. Like, I'm traveling the world. Like, there are people out here, in the US, but especially internationally, even more so, I think, in like third world countries that really need that, assistance. And I mean, it's just so sad, like, to think about and then to interact with that in a foreign country, but it really shines a light on the importance of how important accessibility is.
And what advice would you give to a power wheelchair user that's never traveled overseas before and would like to make that leap into the skies?
Yeah, I mean, I would say to just really start planning as far in advance as possible, just because traveling as a powered wheelchair user or even a manual wheelchair user, it's going to take a lot more time to, figure out what hotels are accessible for you, what modes of transportation are there, what attractions can you visit, what are the sidewalks like and the streets like in that country or city. And so just planning as far in advance as possible gives you more time to really iron out the details of that trip so that then once you do actually get to that destination, you're able to fully enjoy it and you don't have to be worrying about accessibility once you're there because you've already done so much pre-planning.
Yeah, doing your homework, having that game plan can really go a long
Exactly.
way. And probably reading a bunch of your blogs on how to get your body and your wheelchair there safely is helpful. Because if you get there and your wheelchair breaks, it's going to make for a pretty challenging and awful travel experience. But it's the air travel in powered chairs is it's tough, but it's
Oh
doable
yeah.
if you approach it. Or it's more
Yeah, I
doable.
mean, air
I'd never
travel.
say.
Yeah, air travel is by far the part of traveling that I dread the most. I mean, I've done hundreds of flights and it's still such a debacle, but I mean, there are small improvements finally coming about. So I think, within the next decade, we may see massive change, but for now, it's just a really difficult process. But at least it's encouraging to know that there are small improvements constantly being made.
There's small improvements, and then how you approach it yourself is so
Yeah.
important because you can really, whether it comes to communication, the communication with the staff that's handling your body, your wheelchair, you always have an opportunity to advocate. And
Yeah.
and but yeah, I know I've read on your blog different tips and tricks that are just so helpful for people.
Yeah.
So definitely, guys, go to the website, read up, and then I would love to know what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word accessibility.
Well, I mean, for me, I think accessibility means independence. And so, just, if somebody tells me that a beach is accessible, and it truly is, where I'm able to, independently roll on the sand and like a powered beach wheelchair or an all terrain wheelchair or on an access mat or something of that nature, I mean, it really just gives me so much joy that I'm able to have that much independence on a beach, which is something that I was not able to do when I was born or even 20 years ago. Like those options did not really exist like they do today. And so I think for me, accessibility means just having more independence.
And with the holiday season fast
Yeah.
approaching on us, what message would you want to give or share to the travel industry as a whole on what they can do better around accessibility and inclusion?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the travel industry so often thinks that we, as people with disabilities, are not out there traveling. Like they have some kind of preconceived notion that we're just staying at home and not really, flying the friendly skies or visiting these far flung destinations. But that is so far from the truth. And so, people with disabilities, according to a survey by the Open Doors organization, spend over $58 billion per year just within the travel industry. And so the market is there. And if you're willing to, advertise and cater to that market and improve accessibility, then you'll get those dollars.
And look at you. Cory Lee has stimulated the economy of 43 different countries, 7 continents. Come on, the people with disabilities are traveling the world. They want to spend their dollars, and they want to experience all that the countries and destinations have to offer. So like, kind of make it more accessible and promote it as accessible if you've done the steps to do something about it. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
I love it.
yeah, when I see a destination that has gone above and beyond and included wheelchair users in their marketing and like in commercials and on their websites, I mean, I'm going to be loyal to that destination and I'm going to go there because I know that, if I go there, there's a really, really good chance that it's going to be accessible for me and inclusive. And so, just doing something as simple as putting wheelchair users in your marketing can really bring a lot of business.
I love that you bring up the brand loyalty because when it works for us, right, with people with disabilities or wheelchair users, we come back again and again as repeat customers. And guess what? We also do. We recommend it to our friends and family and our community. Like we're the best like marketers that come from a stay. Like we will love on you if you love on us.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. I mean, we are very, very loyal, I believe.
Oh, I love that. And what message would you want to deliver about accessibility and inclusion to the airlines?
Oh, I mean, we could do a whole session on air travel probably, but I mean, my dream ultimately is to be able to just get on a plane and stay in my wheelchair. I mean, that would be the ultimate dream for me. I mean, it would eliminate the risk of damages, it would eliminate the risk of getting dropped when I'm getting on board a plane into the aisle chair and then into the plane seat. I've been dropped numerous times nearly. And it's such a process. And so, I mean, I think, if I could tell the air travel industry one thing, though, I would just say to please, reach out to people with disabilities and let them talk to your staff and train your staff. I think that so often when I'm flying, there is a lack of empathy with the crew and me. And so the crew often doesn't really understand, how important the wheelchair is, that it's like my legs basically. And they don't understand, why it's so important. But I think if, airlines would hire wheelchair users to come in and give speeches or talks or first person like trainings, then it would create a lot more empathy within the air travel industry. And I think we would see a totally different scenario and so many less wheelchairs getting damaged in the future, hopefully.
I love that. That's great advice, Cory. And what message would you want to deliver to the booking websites that have the hotels and resorts?
Yeah, I would say to really be as specific as possible. So often when I'm booking hotels, it'll say that it is an accessible room with a roll-in shower, but it doesn't tell me any more details. So it doesn't tell me if there's like a pull under sink, or if there are grab bars by the toilet, or if there are grab bars in the shower, or what kind of shower chair there is, if it's a bench or a chair, or the height of the bed. Like, there are so many details that are missing on all of the booking platforms that I've encountered pretty much. And so I would just love to see a lot more detailed information about accessibility.
The details, it all falls within the details because, you could be accessible for one unique disability or ability, but that then is not accessible to so many others. So those details really tell the story on if a particular guest or a future guest could come to the resort or hotel and have the experience that they need to have a safe and welcoming time.
Yeah, I would really love also to see even like photos and videos of the accessible rooms on the booking websites. Sometimes they'll include one photo of the room in general, but hardly ever can I tell from that one photo if it's going to be accessible for me or not. So I think more videos, more photos, and more information would be just amazing.
That would be absolutely amazing, and it will tell the story and provide more details in those videos. But Cory, thank you so much for being our guest today on accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions. Really love your perspective, all that you're doing, and just don't stop.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun, and yeah, I appreciate it.
And to our guests, thank you so much for staying to the end of accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and make sure to follow us at accessiBe_community. As always, thank you so much for being on this journey with us. Bye, everyone. Bye, Cory.